This video is just to help you with challenge 9 and give you some pointers for going through it really step by step. So you have the instructions here, and this refers to what you already have in Replit. So if we go to that, you'll see when you go to lib.py, you have a bunch of empty functions that you have to implement. And we'll go through these a little bit, but all you have to do to run the tests in this case is hit the run button. So when you do that, it should run some PyTests. And you see, because none of these are implemented, they all fail. Well, anyway, as you go through these, I would run them one at a time. Let's get rid of that, and let's just go into this environment. So this replicates it, right? So get max, and what you are to do here is, it tells you for each function what you're supposed to do. Get max. The parameters is a list of integers. Okay, so in Replit in here, I have I have this parameter which will be a list of integers. So in other words, it will be something like etc. Right? That's how you have to assume that'll be passed in. Now, and you're to return the integer with the greatest value. Don't use the max. There is a built-in function in Python, max. I don't want to see that. You don't need it, really. And up here, I think I say, yes, all functions except for number length and fizzbuzz are to be implemented with one or more for loops. For the most part, it's just one for loop. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna loop over LST, the argument, and you're gonna find the integer that is greatest, and then you're going to return that integer. Now, how do you do that? Well, the first thing you really have to do is sort of set the highest integer. Okay, so how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to come up and say, you call it max or whatever, equals, and you're going to say 10 billion or something. No. The best thing to do is just select the first item in the list and call it max, and then just loop over it. And if, as you loop over it, you compare max, I'll leave that sort of that pseudo variable up there. If you check, is max, or is the integer that you've iterated over, for I in LST, and you compare, if the I is greater than max, then I becomes the max. You just change it, and then you just return that. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. That's it. So min is just like this, except you're going to set you're going to set a minimum value. You're going to set some value in the or some item in the list here as a minimum, and then you're going to see is it less than, or is the integer in the for loop, let's say for I in LST, is it greater than, or I should say, is it less than whatever you set is min, let's say, and then you return min. If as you go through the for loop, if that integer in there is less than min, then you set that I to min. You say min equals I now. And then you move on. And then you just return, make sure you return min. That's it. Get total. Let's go to the instructions here on this one. You're going to get a list of integers again, and you're going to sum up all the integers in it. And you don't use the sum, built-in sum method. Or function. So that should be easy enough. You set, you sort of set a total equals 0, and then you iterate through and you add to that total. You increment the total and then make sure that you return the total. Fairly simple. All right, now this one, sum, odd, and even. You take another list of integers and you return a list with two elements. Okay, so the first element in that list you return is the sum of all the even integers, and the second element is the sum of all the odd integers. Now, this is actually easier than it sounds, but let's say, so sum, odd, and even, that's what it's going to look like. And let's say you put in a list like this. Well, what you're going to return is this for this one. So in other words, if you add up all the even numbers, it's 12 in here, and all the odds are 9. Now, I put a little hint down here. Use the modulo operator. So let's just, I'm going to review that a little bit. So for example, if I said, let's take 7 modulo 2, right? Well, that returns 1. If I said 6 modulo 2, that's 0. If I say 2 modulo 2, that's 0. If I say 4 modulo 2, you should see a pattern here. When it's even, the modulo 2 is going to be equal to 0. Otherwise, it's an odd number. Those are your two choices. So using that condition, you should be able to determine which ones are the even ones and which ones then the others are the odd ones. You add the evens together as you go through, and you add the odds together as you go through. So you have sort of an even and odd, and then you're just going to return a list with those in there. So you'll return whatever, the sum of the evens and sum of the odds. That's a pretty simple function. Let's see here, find Bob. So you're going to get a list of names. I don't know what I say here. A list of string elements. Okay, so you're going to get something like Fred, George, Ted, Guido, Bob. And then if Bob's in the list, you return the first index value where the string can be found. If Bob is missing, you return a -1. So in this case, you return 4, right? Fred, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you would return 4. But here, Fred, Betty, Guido, Bob's not there, you return a -1. So it's kind of like the find, but it's a list here. And you will use, you will have to iterate through the for loop and find. And you'll have to use, don't use the string method find here because it won't work. You're dealing with a list, not a string. I'll give you one other hint. You know, I would recommend here that you use the range function, okay? You iterate through there. That's going to give you index value, and that's what you want to return. So if you find Bob, you return whatever that index value is at the time. And you can return it right inside the loop. As soon as you find Bob, just return the index value. If you don't find Bob, then otherwise you just -1. Number length, this is a pretty easy one. You don't use a for loop here. I would just recommend think of the string conversion and length. That's all you need, really, those two functions, length and string.